Everybody like and subscribe and praise the bell icon. Story number 1.
There was a Pizza Hut on the edge of town that everyone said felt off. It wasn't old or run down. It just had this strange heaviness, like the air was thicker inside. The story goes back to 2014 when a college student named Evan started working there to pay for his dorm. He took the night shift from 8 p.m. to close. At first, it was an easy gig. Mop the floors, box up the last few orders, and lock up around midnight. But things started to change after one particular night. A delivery driver named Ray had gone missing after his last order. They found his car 2 streets away, still running, pizza still warm inside the bag. The customer who placed the order said he never showed up. The cops combed through everything but found nothing. No fingerprints, no struggle, nothing. After that, a lot of workers quit, but Evan stayed. He didn't believe in curses or ghosts. He thought maybe Ray had just run off. One night, Evan was cleaning the kitchen alone after everyone else left. The ovens were cooling down, lights humming overhead. That's when he heard it, a faint knocking sound from the back freezer. 3 slow knocks. He thought it was just the ice machine at first, but then the knocks came again. 3 times, louder. He turned off his mop bucket and walked over. The temperature display on the freezer door was flickering. It showed 3 degrees Fahrenheit, then 102 degrees Fahrenheit, then 3 zeros again. He opened the door, a blast of cold air hitting him in the face. Inside, everything looked normal, except for a set of footprints on the floor, bare human footprints in the frost. They went deeper into the freezer and stopped behind a stack of dough boxes. He called out, "Who's there?" No answer, but he swore he heard breathing, slow, raspy, just behind the boxes. When he took a step closer, the door slammed shut behind him. He panicked, banging on the metal, screaming for help, but no one was there. He tried his phone, dead. He backed up, trying to calm down, but that's when he saw it. A figure crouched near the floor between the shelves, pale skin, blue lips, like it had been in the cold for too long. It looked almost human, but its eyes were wrong. They were black, sunken deep, like holes burned into its skull, and it was holding a Pizza Hut delivery bag. Evan froze. The thing tilted its head and whispered, "It's still warm." Then it crawled forward fast, so fast that Evan barely made it to the door. He slammed into it and fell out into the kitchen, gasping. The freezer door swung shut behind him, but not all the way. It stopped just before sealing, like something inside was holding it open. Then it slowly clicked closed. The next morning, the manager found Evan outside the back door, sitting in the parking lot, shivering uncontrollably. He wouldn't talk. They had to call an ambulance. When the paramedics got there, they said his core temperature was dangerously low, like he'd been locked in a freezer for hours. But the freezer had a digital lock that showed it hadn't been opened once after midnight. Evan quit the next day, but before he left, he told one of the other employees something strange. He said the footprints were gone when they opened the freezer the next morning. But there was one thing left behind, a half-eaten slice of pizza sitting on the floor. The cheese was still warm. A few weeks later, another delivery driver vanished from that same Pizza Hut. They shut it down not long after, but the building still stands. Every now and then, people passing by at night say they see the neon sign flicker on for a few seconds. And if you get close enough, you can still smell fresh dough baking, even though the ovens haven't been turned on in years.
Everybody like and subscribe and praise the bell icon. Story number 2.
There's a Pizza Hut in a small town outside of Cincinnati that locals still whisper about, though it's been closed for nearly 10 years. It wasn't just the food that turned people away. It was what happened one night in December 2013. The store used to be open late, mostly catering to college students and night shift workers. On that night, a delivery driver named Mark came back from a run just before closing. The manager, Dana, was counting the drawer when she noticed something strange. One of the ovens was still on, even though it had been shut off half an hour earlier. The temperature dial read 666 degrees Fahrenheit. Dana laughed nervously, thinking one of the guys was playing a prank, but everyone denied touching it. Then came the smell. Not the usual greasy, yeasty aroma of pizza, but something sour and sickly, like burnt hair. The air grew heavy. The fluorescent lights began flickering, and a low humming came from the walk-in cooler. Mark thought maybe the circuit breaker was failing, so he went to check it. As he pulled open the electrical panel, every light in the building died, just total, suffocating black. Dana called out to him, but there was no answer. Then, through the pitch-dark dining area, she saw the red glow of the Pizza Hut sign outside. Except it wasn't red anymore. It looked like it was pulsing, almost alive, bathing the windows in a faint, bloody hue. When the power snapped back on, Mark was gone. His car keys were still on the counter, his delivery bag untouched. The only thing out of place was a single large pizza box sitting open on the prep table. Inside was a pizza, half-baked, the cheese blistered and uneven. But what made Dana's knees buckle was the dark, blackened object in the center, a human tooth wedged into the crust. The others thought it was a sick joke. They tore the box apart, looking for an explanation. Then someone opened the oven door again. It was still running, the display locked at 666 degrees Fahrenheit, even though it was unplugged. And inside the oven was something that looked like the outline of a hand pressed into the metal, melted into it. Police investigated for weeks. They drained the grease trap, checked the cameras, questioned everyone. The footage from that night was completely static, except for one moment at 2:47 a.m. A shape appeared on the screen behind the counter. It looked like a man in a Pizza Hut uniform, standing perfectly still. But the timestamp showed it was recorded 2 hours after everyone had left. The building shut down a month later. Every new business that tried to move in complained about electrical issues, smells, even phantom burns on the ovens they installed. One restaurant owner claimed his thermostat randomly jumped to 666 degrees Fahrenheit too. They all left. The building still stands, boarded up, the old Pizza Hut logo faintly visible beneath peeling paint. Locals say if you drive by after midnight, you can still see the faint red glow inside, like the sign never turned off. And sometimes, if you listen closely, you can hear the faint sound of an oven door creaking open, and someone whispering your order back, word for word.
Everybody like and subscribe and praise the bell icon. Story number 3.
It happened in 2016, in a small Pizza Hut just outside Omaha, Nebraska. I was a night shift manager there for almost a year. We closed at midnight, but I often stayed late to finish cleaning and inventory. The restaurant was quiet after hours, just the hum of the coolers and the occasional creak from the ceiling. It felt peaceful most nights, but one night still makes my stomach twist every time I think about it. It was around 1:30 a.m. when I realized one of the kitchen freezers wasn't sealing properly. It kept beeping with that dull alarm sound. I opened it to check, and a blast of cold air hit me so hard it made my eyes water. I adjusted the latch and noticed something odd. There were footprints, bare footprints, in the thin layer of frost that had formed on the floor. Small, almost child-sized. They trailed into the corner behind the boxes of dough trays. I thought maybe one of the younger employees was screwing around, hiding back there to scare me. I called out, "Not funny, guys." Nothing. Just that constant hum from the cooler. When I crouched down, the air felt unnaturally cold, almost like it was pressing against my skin. The footprints ended at the metal wall. No return prints. It was like whoever made them had just vanished into the steel. When I came back out into the kitchen, the smell hit me. Not like food or cleaning chemicals. It was sweet and rotten, like old meat left in the sun. I checked every trash bin and drain, but nothing explained it. The smell came and went, and every time it did, the lights flickered. I went back to the office to check the security cameras. The feed was glitchy, static crawling across the screens, but one camera, the one facing the kitchen door, showed something that made me freeze. In the footage taken just a few minutes earlier, a figure was standing in the kitchen. Not moving, not walking, just standing there. It was thin hunched with long black hair hanging down its face. I thought maybe it was just distortion until it turned its head, slowly, toward the camera. The face was pale and wrong. Its eyes were open too wide and the mouth hung slack like a broken hinge. I slammed the laptop shut. My pulse was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I checked the door locks, grabbed my keys, and decided to leave the cleaning for the morning crew. As I stepped out into the parking lot, I turned back for just a second, habit I guess, and saw movement through the front window. Someone was standing inside the dining area, right by the salad bar. But it wasn't one of my employees. It was the same thin figure watching me. I jumped in my car and didn't stop driving until I was halfway home. When I called the district manager the next morning and told him what happened, he laughed and said the motion sensors probably caught a reflection or a glitch. I wanted to believe him. A week later, I got a call from one of the new closers. He said he quit. When I asked why, he said he heard whispering coming from the freezer and found small, wet footprints leading to the back door. He didn't even wait for his final paycheck. That Pizza Hut shut down about 6 months later. People said it was because of bad sales. But those of us who worked the late shift know the truth. Something else was in there with us. Something that never left when we locked the doors.
Everybody like and subscribe and praise the bell icon. Story number 4.
There was a Pizza Hut in a small town off Highway 43 that shut down almost overnight. For years, it sat abandoned, with its faded red roof and broken windows collecting dust and graffiti. Locals said the place went downhill after a delivery driver named Ron disappeared one night on his route. But that wasn't the only strange thing that happened there. The story goes that one night in 2014, the night manager, Lisa, was closing up. It was a stormy Friday, and the restaurant was nearly empty, except for a couple finishing their meal. The lights flickered several times, and the smell of burnt cheese hung in the air. She sent the last employees home and started cleaning up, humming to distract herself from the creaks in the ceiling. When she went to check the security cameras, one of the monitors was static, specifically the one showing the back door where deliveries were made. Thinking it was just the storm messing with the signal, she ignored it. But when she turned back around, she heard a low, wet sound coming from the walk-in cooler, like someone slapping raw dough against metal. She called out, assuming it was one of her coworkers playing a prank. No response, just that slow, rhythmic noise. When she opened the cooler, her breath clouded instantly. Inside, a stack of empty pizza boxes had fallen to the floor, now smeared with something dark red, not sauce, but thicker, almost black. The air stank of rot, and she could see something glistening in the shadows near the meat shelf. She stepped closer and froze. It was a human hand, stiff and pale, sticking out from behind a pile of pepperoni bags. Lisa screamed and ran to the phone, but the line was dead. The power cut out seconds later, plunging the entire restaurant into silence. The only light came from the parking lot's flickering sign through the window. Pizza Hut blinking weakly. Half the letters burned out. When police arrived the next morning, the front door was locked from the inside. Lisa's car was still in the lot, her keys on the counter. They found no trace of her, just her name tag, pressed into the cold dough roller like someone had forced it there. A few months later, a new manager tried reopening the store. But every night, when they closed, the cooler door would swing open on its own. Security footage always showed the same thing. A shadow moving across the floor and stopping near the meat shelf before the feed cut to static. Employees started quitting after hearing footsteps in the freezer when they were alone. Some claimed to smell blood even when no meat was out. One delivery driver swore he saw a woman in a Pizza Hut uniform standing by the dumpster at 3 a.m., drenched in something dark, staring at him without blinking. When he turned around for a second and looked back, she was gone. Eventually, corporate shut the location down for good, citing structural issues. But locals still drive by and swear they see lights flicker inside around closing time. And sometimes, if you park outside late enough, you can still hear the faint hum of the dough mixer and a woman's voice whispering through the static of the old intercom. Order up.
Everybody like and subscribe and praise the bell icon. Story number 5.
There used to be a Pizza Hut in a small town outside of Toledo, Ohio, that locals avoided after dark. It wasn't because of bad food or rude staff. It was because of what happened in 2013, when a closing shift went terribly wrong. The restaurant was managed by a woman named Lisa, who'd worked there for nearly a decade. One Friday night, around 11:45 p.m., the last few employees were cleaning up when Lisa realized the walk-in fridge light was still on. She went to turn it off, but the door was slightly ajar. She pushed it open and called for Sam, a teenage employee who'd been restocking earlier. No answer. The only sound was the low hum of the refrigerator fans and a slow dripping noise. The air was freezing, but she stepped inside. On the floor was a half-open box of mozzarella and a trail of sauce leading deeper in, almost like someone had dragged their hand through it. At the back of the freezer, she saw what looked like a shadow, something standing completely still. She started to say Sam's name again, but the light suddenly went out. The other employees heard her scream and ran toward the freezer, but when they opened the door, the lights came back on. Lisa was gone. There was only a puddle of water on the floor and the box of cheese overturned beside it. The police arrived within 20 minutes, but they found nothing. No blood, no footprints, nothing on the cameras. The freezer security feed cut out at exactly 11:47 p.m. and resumed at 11:52. When it came back, the freezer was empty. The footage was reviewed by technicians, but they couldn't explain the distortion that appeared during those missing 5 minutes. A week later, the night cook quit after claiming he saw Lisa's reflection in the glass of the pizza display. Her eyes black, her mouth moving silently. The ovens would turn on by themselves, and the timers would beep in sequences that spelled out help. Customers started complaining that their orders smelled like something burnt and metallic, even when fresh from the oven. One family even found a gold earring baked into the crust of a pizza, a match to the one Lisa had been wearing the night she vanished. Corporate shut the store down within a month, saying it was for renovations, but everyone in town knew better. The employees said when they came to collect their paychecks, the place was silent except for the freezer door, still humming, still slightly open, as if waiting. The building still stands, boarded up and overgrown. People who pass by late at night claim the Pizza Hut sign flickers to life, even though the power's been disconnected for years. Some say if you look through the cracks in the plywood, you can still see a light glowing faintly from the freezer. And sometimes, if the wind is quiet enough, you can hear a voice whispering from inside, cold, faint, and trembling, asking if you'd like extra cheese.
Everybody like and subscribe and praise the bell icon. Story number 6.
Pitch black, except for the flickering red glow of our neon Pizza Hut sign. That night, it was just me and my manager, Scott. The storm outside was brutal. Rain slamming against the windows, thunder shaking the metal roof. Around 11:45, a man came in wearing a soaked trench coat and a baseball cap pulled low over his face. He stood in the doorway for a few seconds, dripping water all over the floor. Scott greeted him, but the guy didn't respond. He just asked in this low, almost slurred voice, "Do you still have the special tonight?" Scott said yes, and the man nodded slowly, staring at the menu board without blinking. I remember his eyes. They were milky like cataracts, but the way he focused on us felt sharp, deliberate. When Scott went to ring him up, the register froze. Total glitch. It happens sometimes during storms, but it freaked me out that it happened right then. The man just smiled and said, "Don't worry about the money. You'll pay me later." Then he turned and walked straight to the bathroom. We never saw him come out. After 10 minutes, Scott knocked on the door, calling out that we were closing soon. No answer. He finally opened the door, but the bathroom was empty. No window, no ceiling vent, just an empty room and a puddle of muddy water on the floor. I swear it smelled like rotten meat. We both tried to laugh it off, saying maybe the guy slipped out without us noticing. But when we checked the security footage, things got worse. The camera showed the man walking in, standing at the counter, and then he just disappeared mid-step. One frame he was there, the next he was gone. No glitch, no distortion, just gone. Scott said the cameras must have malfunctioned, but I could tell he didn't believe that. We closed up as fast as we could. When I went to take out the trash, I froze. There were wet footprints in the hallway, leading from the bathroom all the way to the back exit. Bare footprints, huge ones, like someone had walked straight out into the storm barefoot. A few days later, a customer told us something that made my stomach drop. Apparently, a man had been found dead behind the strip mall years ago, drowned in a drainage ditch during a flood. He'd been wearing a trench coat. The story went that he had come in during the storm, begging to use the phone, but they turned him away because the restaurant was closing. Scott quit a week later, said he couldn't handle the late shifts anymore. I stayed for another month, But every time it rained, I swear I could hear someone moving in the bathroom after closing. The lights would flicker, and the smell of rot would fill the air. The final night I worked there, I was mopping when I noticed a message scrawled into the condensation on the kitchen window. It wasn't there before. 4 words, written in shaky letters: "You never paid me. I clocked out and never went back."
Everybody like and subscribe and praise the bell icon. Story number 7.
There was a Pizza Hut in a small Midwestern town that people avoided after dark. Locals whispered that something about that place wasn't right. It sat right on the edge of a highway, the parking lot half cracked and overgrown with weeds, the red roof faded to a dull rust color. But the restaurant stayed open late, mostly for truckers passing through. A man named Eric worked there as a night manager for almost 6 years. He didn't believe in the town's stories about the thing in the walk-in freezer or the shadow in the vents. He'd laugh about them until the night he started hearing the noises himself. It was a Sunday. The last customers had left, and Eric was cleaning up alone. He just turned off the dining room lights when he heard what sounded like metal dragging from the kitchen. He froze. He thought maybe one of the prep pans had fallen, but when he went back there, everything was in place. Then came a soft knocking from inside the freezer door. He thought maybe one of the delivery guys had gotten trapped, but when he opened it, cold mist spilled out and the light inside flickered weakly. The freezer was empty. He stared into the frost-coated walls and noticed a strange stain on the floor, something dark frozen into the ice. He scraped at it with a spatula and realized it was brownish red. He shut the door fast, but when he turned around, all the prep tables had moved. Not much, just shifted a few inches like someone had brushed past them. He tried to laugh it off, but the dragging sound started again, this time right under his feet, beneath the floor grates. Then the walk-in door slammed shut behind him. He ran to it, but it wouldn't open. Through the tiny window in the door, he saw the dining area lights flicker on one by one, even though he'd shut them all off. Then he saw movement, someone or something walking between the tables. It was tall and thin, wearing what looked like an old Pizza Hut uniform from decades ago, the logo faded and greasy. Its head hung too low, almost touching its chest, and its arms dragged behind like wet cloth. The thing stopped near the window, tilting its head like it was listening. Then slowly it turned toward the kitchen. Eric began pounding on the door, screaming for help, his breath fogging the glass. The figure moved closer, step by dragging step. When it reached the kitchen, the lights flickered again, and for a second, everything went black. When the lights came back on, the door was open. Eric bolted outside, didn't even grab his jacket, and drove straight home. He never went back. The next morning, the opening crew found the back door wide open, the freezer still running, and something new on the inside wall. Written in frost with what looked like bare fingers were the words, "Still working the late shift." After that, the restaurant shut down for good. No franchise ever reopened there. But truckers say that if you pass by that stretch of highway after midnight, you can still see the red roof faintly glowing, like the lights are on again. And if you stop, you'll smell fresh pizza baking, and faintly, just beneath it, the cold scent of blood.